Magavaro Kunjo Bihari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiro Banachari Yamuna Tiro Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiro Banachari Yamuna Tiro Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mahatma Sabridhajacharya Sakhavi Smada Viditam Saraswati Goswami Bhagavati Jaya Nanda Kodi Vaishnava Jaya Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Jaya Names of the whole Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Shivasari Gaur Sri Radha Krishna Bhogavna Sam Kanda Radha Kanda Giri Jaya Vrindavan Dham Ki Jaya Navadvip Dham Ki Jaya Ganga Mai Ki Jaya Jamuna Mai Ki Jaya Guru Dwarka Dham Ki Jaya Swami Bhaktivinoda Ki Jaya All glories to the All glories to the Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Madam Malati. Please accept my respectful obeisances. Always just confirm
Hare
that you're
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Oh,
Krishna,
you
Madam.
have a new you have a new backdrop.
Thank you very much.
It looks like you're in the springtime.
Thank you very much. So we're happy to have you. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. As we go along, maybe by the time you finish with the Mangala Charan, the devotees will be joining. There are a few now, but I'm sure more devotees will be joining as we go along. So,
Okay. Just a second then.
So if it's okay, I can put the verse for today on the screen, then we can start.
Okay, sure. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Wait a second here.
Okay, we can start now.
So you want me to begin right?
Yes, we can start, Mother. Yes, we can start, Mother.
Just give me one moment.
Okay, Mother.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sometimes you think you're all ready and something happens.
Yeah.
Oh, Krishna. Yeah, it was already. This thing jumps out. Krishna, Krishna. I was reading over the chapter this morning, and then there's this one verse previous to ours, and it's talking about how the whole material world is based on sex life and the abominations of unrestricted sex life. I look out my window, and there's always animals on my veranda, on my deck. So there was the groundhogs, there was squirrels, there was little chipmunks, and a bunch of peacocks and a bunch of other birds. And suddenly this one young peacock, and he's just growing his first full tail. So he flips it up, what little there is of it, and he starts acting like a peacock, but he's going after this little groundhog. So it's like, it's one thing, a bird chasing another bird, but here was this little peacock all fluffed up and trying to become, catch the attention of a little groundhog. And I was thinking, yes, he does not understand. Anyway, okay, so let me get back to that verse. So today's verse is 2:6:29.
Yes.
So I'm going to read the synonyms first. Tata, thereafter, te, your, bratara, brothers, ime, these, pagyanam, of the living creatures, pataya, masters, nava, 9, ayasan, performed, vyaktam, manifested, avyaktam, unmanifested, purusam, personalities, su samahita, with proper rituals. Somehow for me, it's a little blurred. I'm going to pull up and read from my own notes. So, proper rituals. So, tataste brataraime pagyanam patayonava ayajan vyaktam avyaktam purusham su samahita.
Sorry.
So, should I wait for something?
It's okay. Sadif, you put this kind
of. Yeah, I'm reading. Okay. Okay, now it's clear. So, going into the translation, and of course, this is being spoken by Lord Brahma. My dear son, thereafter, your 9 brothers, who are the masters of living creatures, performed the sacrifice with proper rituals to satisfy both the manifested and non-manifested personalities. The purport just disappeared. The manifested personalities are the demigods, like the ruler of the heavenly kingdom, Indra, and his associates. And the non-manifested personality is the Lord himself. The non-manifested personalities are mundane controllers of the material affairs, whereas the non-manifested personality of Godhead is transcendental, beyond the range of the material atmosphere. In this age of Kali, the manifested demigods are also not to be seen, for space travel has completely stopped. And I might just point out here, the space travel being remarked upon here, being commented upon, isn't like the space travel that we are attempting nowadays. This space travel was like people like Narada Muni, who did not have to depend on any outside type of entrance, outside type of accommodation, like a spaceship or a rocket, etc. They traveled in space on flower airplanes. So we don't see that anymore. It's completely stopped. So both the powerful demigods and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-manifested to the covered eyes of the modern man. Modern men want to see everything with their eyes, although they are not sufficiently qualified. Consequently, they believe in the existence of the demigods or of the Supreme God. They should see through the pages of authentic scriptures and should not simply believe their unqualified eyes. Even in these days, God can also be seen by qualified eyes, tinged with the anointment of love of God. Magyantamiranda Syadanana Sakalaya Chakchumritam Yedina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhaskara Satarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhu vayevyacha, patitanam pavanivyo, Vaishnavevyo namo namaha. So again, the translation, my dear son, thereafter your 9 brothers, who are the masters of living creatures, perform the sacrifice with proper rituals to satisfy both the manifested and unmanifested. So speaking here, speaking about vision, in the material world, we consider 20/20 vision to be perfect vision. That's how it's described, 20/20 vision. But that 20/20 vision only allows you to see what is matter, up to the point of matter. And beyond that, we're not able to see without some kind of assistance. And then even with the assistance of some kind of mechanical situations, like those big, what do they call them, telescopes that go out into outer space. First there was a Hubble, and now there's this other one, I forget the name of it, but it's pretty far out. It goes really far out into space. And you see, it's kind of complex. You're seeing these colors and lights and formations, but they're always kind of mobile, they're moving. So we don't really know what we're seeing. And sometimes a scientist will point out something which, oh, here's a new hole in the universe. But whatever it is, and we're seeing it. We're not really seeing it. We just don't have the right eyes. We don't have the right vision. And part of that vision includes knowledge. So most of us don't have that type of far-reaching knowledge, and we definitely don't have that far-reaching vision. There are certain scientists like astrophysicists, and they just love looking into space and seeing all these complex formations and happenings, and they have some understanding of it, but they totally are not able to get the real complex background of what is happening, why it's happening, and who is behind the happening. So they're watching these events. It's kind of like if we go to some big show or we're in a big coliseum and, you know, whatever is happening on the stage and there's all kind of effects and sounds. Well, behind all that that's happening was like probably, you know, months of preparation and rehearsal, and there's still people that we can't see who are manipulating all the instruments required to create the effects that are being enjoyed by the audience. So we don't see all that. So in a much grander way, outside of the material universe, such a thing is going on. And we're not seeing those things. And even if we were, we wouldn't understand them. We wouldn't get it as it's said. We might even be fearful, like, is this, you know, is this safe? What is happening? And that is actually part of life in the material world, is fearing complex. So for absolute protection from all sorts of fear, as well as all of our needs in life, we must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not only in this planet, but in all the upper and the lower and the heavenly planets, because these upper and lower and heavenly planets are still within the vast grasp of the material universe. The heavenly planets are just within the material universe, but they're just on a more complex, subtle level. We don't have the vision, the ability, or even the intelligence to grasp that. So this absolute dependence on the lotus feet of the Lord, it's called pure devotional service. And what does it mean to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord? Means we follow his instructions. And it's directly hinted at that no one should have any kind of doubt in this matter. Everyone except the Lord himself is dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And I found it very interesting that that also includes the all-pervading supersoul, that the all-pervading supersoul is also dependent. Maybe somebody should put their mic off. So even the all-pervading supersoul is also dependent on the supreme aspect of Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead. So, I mean, that's the supersoul, who is actually Krishna, the most closest to Krishna you can get. He is also dependent on Krishna. So what to speak of us, the little tiny, tiny jivas, what to speak of us? Prabhupada pointed out there's powerful kings and leaders, learned scholars and scientists. There's artists, there's engineers, inventors, excavators, I mean, those people that come in with great big machines and just rip apart the earth, trying to go down, down, down. Actually, people are so fascinated about what they can't see. So not only into outer space, but inner space means within the interior of the earth itself. And at a certain point, both in America and Russia, there's always that little competition, right, between America and Russia. So they wanted to see how far down within the interior of the earth they could go. And it was like just like the race for space, this was the race for the inner space. And the Americans got pretty far down and then hit a point where it seemed futile, and they gave it up. The Russians kept going at it, but then, although they got farther in than the Americans, they also got to the point where it was futile, and they could not continue because the interior of the earth is not inhabitable by the humans, or even our machinery just couldn't crack the code, couldn't get in there. So then there's archaeologists, but that just shows the futility of whichever way you go with things. There's no way, as conditioned souls, with all the things that come along with our conditioning, that we can actually compete with the Lord and his entities, like the demigods who are controlling every aspect of the creation on behalf of the Lord. So archaeologists, industrialists, politicians, economists, business magnates, and then, the powerful deities or demigods, like including Lord Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Surya, Varuna, and Marut, they're all protecting the interest of the universal affairs of maintenance in their different roles and capacities. And all of them have they're all different parts, powerful parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is the actual father of all living entities who are placed in various high, low, and intermediate positions according to our desires and our aspirations and our capacity. So some of them are specifically empowered by the will of the Lord. They're given certain powers by the will of the Lord. And Prabhupada comments that a sane person must know for certain that a living entity, however powerful one may be, is neither absolute or independent, and we never will be. All living entities have to accept the origin of their specific power. And in this case, where it's being discussed with Lord Brahma, even Lord Brahma, who is the first created living being, and under the instructions of the Lord was creating all different types of living entities and situations, all types of environments and atmospheres, but he was not an independent freewheeler. He wasn't an abstract artist. He was a soul surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was dependent on Krishna. So whatever a person may be in the estimation of the mundane social order, because there is social order, whether, we want to say, oh, we're all the same, but no, we are not all the same. That's just a foolish conception. The sameness, of course, is through the actual identity, through the soul. Through the soul, yes, the soul is equal in that respect, coming from the Supreme Lord. But otherwise, not every living entity, not every human is the same or equal to others. So whatever a person may be in the estimation of the mundane social order, if one tries to reciprocate a feeling of love towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they're satisfied with the blessings that come from the Lord, then this person will feel the highest peace of mind for which one hankers after life. And Prabhupada describes this peace of mind. It's the healthy state of mind. And that can only be achieved when the mind is situated in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So when we talk about mental health or peace of mind, the ultimate tranquility, the ultimate peace, the ultimately purely healthy state of mind is that mind situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, free from any other impetus for material sense gratification, or some kind of so-called higher aspirations in the service. The only service is the pure service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that will actually give one the shelter of peace of mind, or that healthy mind that one hopefully desires. So the soul is never a formless void. His body, the soul is a complete whole, or the Lord actually, the Lord also, he's never a formless void. He's never formless. His body is a complete whole of everything that exists, everything that exists. And one just simply cannot assert that he's only impersonal. Of course, people do that, and therefore Prabhupada has called them fools and rascals, But on the contrary, the perfect description of the Lord holds that he is actually both personal and impersonal simultaneously. This part is coming from, they're describing the body of this Virata Rupa, and it gets to the part about the back. So the back of this big, huge, gigantic form is where the idea of impersonal comes. It is that. It is on his back as that impersonal aspect is coming. So the personality of Godhead is the original feature of the Lord, and his impersonal emanation is but the reflection of his transcendental body. And according to this one verse, that impersonal reflection is the back of the Lord. So even when we're confronted with impersonals, indirectly, they are seeing the Lord, but without a form. So liberated souls are far more numerous than the conditioned souls. And sometimes that's really inconceivable. Here we are practicing Krishna consciousness, are trying to be engaged in bhakti yoga, 24/7 for, 1 year, 2 years, or just decades. And still we're in a minority, that minority being the conditioned souls. But at the same time, for some context, this material world is only 1/4 the size of the spiritual world. So even though in our current situation, our current capacity, we are surrounded by conditioned souls, this is just a very small aspect of the sum total of reality, because spiritual world is always greater and larger than the material world. But we're so caught up in being residents of the material world, citizens of ignorance, that we're just thinking that nothing could be beyond this. And if it is beyond it, we want to see it, but we don't want to put in the hard work that it takes to get that type of vision. So the highest benefit that can be awarded to a human being is actually to train every citizen, every person to be, and this is coming from Prabhupada, to be detached from sex life, because it's only due to sex indulgence that the conditioned life of the material existence is continuing birth after birth. That's why I was kind of laughing about this peacock, dancing around with this big fluffed up tail trying to court a groundhog. It's like, doesn't matter, anything just, to quell that agitation. So human civilization in which there is no control of sex life probably says this is fourth-class civilization, because in such an atmosphere, there's no liberation of the soul, which is encaged in the material body. Well, there's birth, death, disease, and old age. That's, our little mantra. We all know that mantra from day 2 in Krishna consciousness: birth, death, disease, and old age. But it's only related to the material body. It has nothing to do with us, the spirit soul. But as long as there's bodily attachment for sensual enjoyment is encouraged, and nowadays it's like encouraged, it's allowed, it's glorified. So what hope is there for the individual spirit soul? Therefore, proper education, spiritual education. Otherwise, The soul is forced to continue the repetition of birth and death on an account of the material body. Failing to remember, it's soon going to be eliminated. It's over so quickly. Those of us who are now in our older years, our elderly years, we're seeing that. Like we look back and we remember with some clarity some of our early life, even as a child, but to speak of our Krishna conscious life, which for most of us, this is when our real life began. And no matter how long we've been practicing, it just seems like it was yesterday. This life goes so quickly. And when the soul departs due to an unfit body, what's left? The remains is just refuse to be, it's fit for the landfill or for some gross areas. Nowadays, there's progressive persons in terms of the environment, but meaning the material environment. And they're always seeking ways to recycle different elements. And that includes nowadays bodies. So they're trying to find ways to recycle dead human bodies to make a more, last ditch productivity. Some of the ways are just to put the body right into the earth and let it go into the elements. And in some cases, they'll do that, and then they'll plant trees upon the body with the theory that the nourishment of the decomposing body will help the tree grow. Don't know if it will or not. But there's a fascination with the dead body. But the fascination does not go far enough to understand why is the body dead. I don't mean in terms, of course, of disease, cancer, or whatever, or a car crash, or just expired. No, but what is the condition? The soul's not there. So the meaningful aspect of that body was the soul. It's gone, and they're still playing around with the dead body instead of trying to understand the actual condition. Why there's a dead body is because the soul has departed. So it seems the soul should be very important, and there should be greater emphasis placed on gaining knowledge of the soul. We, the living entities, are only partially cognizant in this material conditioning. So being only partially cognizant, one can therefore become forgetful even of our own identity. I mean, we know we're not the body. We're not the body. We get that mantra. We're spirit soul. We're spirit soul. But there is a lack of realization. Otherwise, we wouldn't be conditioned. In my own case, I remember as a young person, I got it. I wasn't the body. Very young age. In fact, I would, in our family, they had this tradition of spanking the kids if you misbehaved. And nowadays, I think that's really frowned upon. But I remember my father would be spanking me, and then I would say, "You're not even touching me," because I knew I wasn't the body. But the problem was I didn't know what I was. I didn't know about the soul, and there was no information where I could find that at the time available to me. So this forgetfulness is partly there because of lack of knowledge, or mostly there because of lack of proper knowledge. The forgetfulness is specifically manifested in the field of Ekapad Vibhuti of the Lord, or in the material world. But in the Tripad Vibhuti, in the field of actions, meaning the spiritual world, where there's real activity, there's no forgetfulness by the living entities. All the living entities in the spiritual world are free from all kinds of contaminations resulting from the state of forgetfulness of existence. So the Lord is the proprietor of the fields, both of nescience and of cognition. So it's really the choice of the living entity to exist in either of those regions. And therefore, we need proper education so we can make the proper choice. There was a description of the sun. Prabhupada used in the purport, he goes, the sun expands itself by its terrible heat and rays. Yet the sun is aloof from such rays and heat. So again, this personhood is in every aspect of life, and nature. The impersonalists accept the rays of the Lord without any information of the tangible, transcendental, eternal form of Lord Krishna. They just bask, in they want to become one with the rays, but they don't know what and who is behind the rays. So therefore, Krishna, in his supremely personal form, with the two hands and a flute, he's bewildering for the impersonalists. He's even bewildering for devotees. But for the impersonalists whose minds can only accommodate the Jaganta Vishwarupa of the Lord, such an entity playing a flute, dancing with cows, a peacock feather on his head, is just inconceivable. They can't grasp it. So Brahma, he created sacrificial ingredients out of the bodily limbs of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And this means that the cosmic order was also created by Brahma. Nothing is created from nothing. Everything is created from the person of the Lord. And the Lord says in the Gita 10:8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Everything is made from my bodily limbs, and I am therefore the original source of all creations. So if we read this beautiful 10th chapter of Gita, we can start to connect with the different aspects of our lives, of nature, etc., connected with the Lord as described by the Lord himself. And therefore, that helps improve our deficient vision. The gross material science can only increase the artificial needs of life. They don't have any solution to the real problems of life, as mentioned: birth, death, disease, old age. They don't see how that is a problem, that they have no solution. They keep going ahead blindly trying to create one. And therefore, the way a materialistic life, Prabhupada writes, leads to the wrong type of human civilization. People in general are always anxious for peace of mind, peace in the world. And this world peace is obtainable only by performance of sacrifice and practicing austerity. And since the ultimate aim of life is spiritual realization, the direct way of invoking the holy names of the Lord is precisely recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so that people of this modern fallen age, because it was understood that people would be becoming less and less advanced as the so-called material world advances, the citizens of the material world become less and less advanced in terms of spirituality. So this process of self-realization given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for members of Kali Yuga, so they can just take advantage of this simple process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This simple process of chanting Sri Harinam Sankirtan, simple, sublime. Prabhupada said, even a dog or a child can participate. But the foolish impersonalists are those who are just ignorant. They're thinking, oh, it's too simple. It's too simple to be effective. How can it be accepted? Everything is so complex and bewildering. This certainly cannot overcome these complexities. That is their unfortunate mentality. So the whole world is engaged in sacrificing energy for advancement of learning, social upliftment, economic development, and plans for so-called total improvement of the human condition. But not one is interested in sacrificing for the sake of the Lord. And the result is there's no peace in this world. If men want peace in this world, they have to practice sacrifice in the interest of the Supreme Proprietor and friend of all, as outlined in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. there's actually just a great need for unified leadership under the banner of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, and further exemplified by the appearance of Srila Prabhupada, our Lord and Master, His Divine Grace. And the standard textbook for civilized administration is Bhagavad Gita and SRIMAD Bhagavatam. And we learn from these texts, which are kindly translated by His Divine Grace, painstakingly translated with illuminating purports, so that we can really deeply understand in the context of these teachings. So a leader must be peaceful, self-controlled, austere, pure, tolerant, honest, wise, learned, and religious. These are qualifications for a leader. And only those who are trained up in the ultimate goal of human life can actually lead, because human life is meant for going back home, back to Godhead. So therefore, our society meaning ISKCON, is intended for serving the whole world by supplying that missing part for perfect advancement of human civilization. Prabhupada said, we're supplying the head. This, he was speaking, and it was in a lecture at Bhaktivedanta Manor in July of '73. And it's always so amazing to see Prabhupada's clarity and his unhesitating resolve to present the truth as it is in any situation. That's his compassion. Material suffering is due to persons who implicate themselves in karmic activities. And the Lord, in His impartial ways, allows them to go ahead and live their lives according to their independent will, and continue implicating themselves in the laws of karma that are equal to everyone. So if you commit sinful activities, naturally you'll get the reaction, no matter who you are. That is the Lord's impartiality. It's not that He has any specific axe to grind with anyone. That's our problem. He's there saying, here I am with my flute, dancing with the cows, and the cowherd boys, come, join me. And we're like, I don't get it. I don't want to go there. I don't believe it. That's just fairy tale. That's no. But it doesn't change the fact. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and He's just waiting for us to turn around, to cleanse our eyes, to anoint them with the salve of love, so we can actually see Him. And then when we actually see Him, there'll be no question of not joining Him. But this is not indifference by the Lord that there is such a dilemma, that the suffering of the world is going on, the results of karma are going on. That's His impartiality. And the real happiness is that everyone is searching for is equally available. It's equally available for everyone. But according to our activities in this life, our previous lives, etc., we're creating, at this moment, we're creating an environment around us, either more easy or more difficult to achieve. We're bodybuilders. We're creating our next body even. So it can be a spiritual body. We have it. It's just covered up way down deep. Just like the excavator trying to get into the center of the earth, we need to get into the center of our souls and come in contact with our real self. A beautiful verse in the 5th canto, 14th chapters. Sometimes to mitigate distress in this forest of the material world, a conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. And what's the result? He loses all intelligence in their association. And it's described exactly like jumping into a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He's not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat. So in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them, either in the present or in the future. So Prabhupada is commenting how cheaters are always there to manufacture their own way of spiritual realization to get some material benefit. The conditioned soul approaches these pseudo sannyasis and yogis, and what do they get? Cheap blessings. But there's no benefit from them, either material or spiritual. In this age, so many cheaters, and they show some jugglery or some magic. Even they can create some gold to amaze their followers, and then the followers accept them as God. This kind of cheating is very prominent in Kali Yuga. One time when we were first in India in the early 70s, there was a very famous cheater. Anyway, I'll say the name, Sai Baba. He was wearing these long, dark orange robes and big, big hairs. And he was, quite prominent, and people were accepting, here's God. Why? Because he would put his hands up, he would cross them, and as he crossed them, one hand would go in, because these big robes had like big sleeves. So it would go in the sleeve and would come out, and then sprinkle this vibhuti, so-called gold, some little gold particles. And one time, one of the devotees who was there in India at that time went to one of his performances in Mumbai. And after he was done, this devotee challenged him quite, strongly. And he was saying, I'll take my sandal, I'll take my chappal, I'll beat you with my shoe. I mean, of course, nowadays that would be considered really like outside of conventional etiquette. But what is etiquette? To allow people to be cheated and turn your back on it? So when he came back, he told Srila Prabhupada about that. And Prabhupada just laughed. And he was grateful that this devotee understood what was what and was not afraid to stand up. But in any situation, we need to become educated, properly educated about spiritual science. So to do this, one must approach a guru who can extinguish the blazing fire of this material world, the samsara davanalambita loka, extinguish the blazing fire of this material world and this hard struggle for existence. People want to be cheated, they go to the yogis and swamis who do tricks. But Prabhupada said, tricks do not mitigate the miseries of the material world. They're just distractions. Oh, wow, look at that. And then you come away feeling just as dejected as before. I mean, Prabhupada pointed out, if being able to manufacture gold is a criterion for becoming God, then why not accept Krishna, the proprietor of the entire universe, wherein there are countless tons of gold? Take Krishna. Srila Prabhupada stood out in a world of cheaters and those desiring to be cheated because of his elevated level of compassion for the entirety of the world. It wasn't just for us, his followers. He had compassion for the world. It's not enough to save ourselves, as Sri Prahlad prayed. This beautiful verse from the fifth canto, Vastirastu Vishvasya Kala Prasidatam Deyantu Bhutani Shivam Mitotiya Manastabhadram Vajatada Sajaya Vishyatam No Matirapi Haituki. So this is a beautiful verse. It's well known. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thoughts of him. Beautiful prayer for the current times. So Srila Prabhupada is asserting there are two types of envious living entities. One is a snake, and the other is a man such as Hiranyakashipu, who by nature is envious of everyone. Hiranyakashipu was envious of his own son. But Prahlad, who was tortured by his father, he asked for a benediction for the benefit of his father. And he wished that his father and other demons would give up their envious nature by the grace of the Lord and stop harassing devotees, this kala prasidatam. So the difficulty is that the envious living entity, the kala, is rarely pacified. And therefore we have so many inimical situations in the world. The one type of kala, the snake, can be pacified by mantras or by a particular herb, but the envious persons cannot be pacified by any means. And therefore, Prahlad Maharaj is praying that all envious persons may undergo a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. And this was Prabhupada's mood and mission. If a Krishna conscious person spreads, if the Krishna conscious movement spreads all over the world, and if by the grace of Krishna everyone accepts it, then the thinking of envious persons can change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. So therefore, Prahlad was saying, Shivam mito diya. In material activities, everyone is envious of others. But in Krishna consciousness, no one is envious of anyone else. Everyone thinks of the welfare of others. So while the materialist is always thinking of sense gratification, Prahlad is praying by the Lord's mercy, by his mercy, the minds of the envious can change and they will stop thinking of sense gratification. And if they think of Krishna always, then everything will be all right. So now some people can argue, if everyone thinks of Krishna in that way, the whole world will be vacated, right? Everybody will go back to Godhead because everyone will go back to Godhead. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is impossible because the living entities are innumerable. So if one set of living entities is actually delivered by the Krishna conscious movement, another set will fill the entire universe. One time Srila Prabhupada was asked, what happens if everyone goes back to Godhead? Prabhupada looked at him, don't worry, there will always be fools like you who will not go. So as followers of Srila Prabhupada, we have to be careful not to minimize Srila Prabhupada or his instructions, because the more we absorb in his teachings, which are connecting us to Krishna, the more effective we will be as his servants, as his administrators and his leaders. And the more we'll be able to propagate Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada is our founder and acharya, and he should always be shown that effect. And it's our duties as leaders, as administrators, as his followers, to ensure that this proper respect is always shown to Srila Prabhupada, because that will empower us to be his effective servants. There's that other verse, what is, I can't think of the exact verse right now, but that every living entity should be friendly to the service of others, be friendly for the service of others. Like, in other words, we shouldn't be inimical. Oh, see, this one is doing so well. No, we should be friendly for the service of others. And in that way, create an atmosphere where everybody is hankering after the service of Krishna. And in doing so, setting an example whereby others will also want to hanker after the service of Krishna. And there's no enmity and there's no enviousness. So that is the duty of disciples and followers of Srila Prabhupada, to help assist in creating this Vaikuntha atmosphere. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Dear devotees, if anyone may have a question, comment, realization you would like to share, please you may indicate by using the hand emoji or physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak.
Yes, because I would like to hear from others also.
Okay.
It is the sharing of our understandings, our realizations. Just like in the very beginning, we had no clue what we were reading the Bhagavatam. We had no clue, and giving classes from day one. What did we know? But that was a system. And Prabhupada would sit and listen to us fumbling through the Bhagavatam, giving classes. Because there's always something to be gained and shared. So, yeah.
I couldn't just stop laughing to Srila Prabhupada's answer to the rhetorical question that if everybody went home, what will happen to this material? Don't worry, there'll always be fools like you. Srila Prabhupada is so expert.
And he didn't say that with a hatefulness.
No,
that was the thing. It was like, So therefore, even the people who are hearing the harsh truth, because it's a harsh fact, but they weren't offended. Sometimes we can be too boom, boom, but because Prabhupada was offering the truth with love, it could be accepted. So therefore, we have to develop this love of God so we can also lovingly develop and divulge the harsh truth in a manner that it can be accepted. Therefore, we have to also eliminate enviousness and anger from our own disposition.
So this brings me to my question, because I have a little bit of fortune in the sense that once in a while I think of Srila Prabhupada, but I wish I could think of him all the time. But whenever I think of Srila Prabhupada, what really comes to my little troublesome head is that he told us, because he's done so much for us that all of us would like to do something to please him as a gesture of appreciation for what he's done for us. And what he told us, how we can please him, is how we can cooperate and live together. Now, my question is, if we are devotees trying to please Srila Prabhupada, and we know this is what Srila Prabhupada has told us, yet we still have difficulties relating with God brothers and God sisters who are not against Srila Prabhupada's teachings, who are not against ISKCON, who are not against anything Srila Prabhupada told us, but simply because he or she says or does something different, and therefore I do not want to have anything to do with such a devotee. What do we need to do to get rid of this barrier so that we can attempt to please Srila Prabhupada by such cooperation? That's my question.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, we could follow Bhaktisiddhantas and beat the mind, beat the mind with a broomstick or the shoe. But actually, I hinted at that. I was mentioning this verse. Actually, it's from 7th canto, from the purport, 7.5.12. He describes what the mood and service appreciation of the monk devotee should be. Everyone should be friendly for the service of the Lord. Everyone should praise another's service to the Lord and not be proud of his own service. This is the way of Vaishnava thinking, Vaikuntha thinking. There may be rivalries and apparent competition between servants in performing service. But in the Vaikuntha planets, the service of another service is appreciated and not condemned. This is Vaikuntha competition. So there's no question of actual enmity between service. Everyone should be allowed to render service to the Lord to the best of their ability, and everyone should appreciate the service of others. This is the activities of Vaikuntha. Everyone is a servant, everyone on the same platform and allowed to serve the Lord according to his ability. Confirmed in Gita 15:15, the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, giving dictation according to the attitude of the servants. Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. So everyone is actually a servant, not an enemy or a friend. And everyone is working under different directions of the Lord. So if we just start imbibing this, this is like a aspect of Trinadapi Sunicina. We know we have to be humble, more humble than. But how do we do this? And here Prabhupada is telling us, showing us how we can do it. Be friendly toward the service of another. Praise another. This is how we do it. Because yes, Prabhupada constantly made that point. The test of our actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be in this mutual cooperative spirit to push on this movement and not make factions or deviate. It was in a letter in 73, and so many other times he would comment that our real love would be shown how we cooperate. Your love will be tested. How after my departure you maintain this institution. We have glamour and people are feeling our weight. This should be maintained by cooperation. This was from Tamal Krishna Goswami's diary. So, that is Prabhupada's answer to your question as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you so much, Mother Hare Krishna. Anyone else with something to share, please? You may unmute and speak. Mother, are you going to be in Columbus this weekend?
I'll be there on Saturday.
Okay, so we're likely going to meet you there.
I hope I will meet all of you there also. Yes.
Yeah.
I know the thing is Saturday and Sunday, but on Sunday there is a little Rath Yatra in Pittsburgh that I'm also obliged to participate. So I will definitely be there Saturday.
All right. Thank you so much.
Krishna willing.
Yeah, Krishna willing.
And remember, everybody remember, don't wear all black or all white, and wear some green. Wear some green.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if it's just a little green ribbon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the reminder.
And for those who may not know, we're referring to the memorial for Krishange Shaki Devi Dasi.
Yeah. Anyone else with something to share, please?
Otherwise, if I could take your departure, because I have another another obligation.
All right. Well, Mother, we know you are always busy, yet you do everything possible to make time to be with us, to give us your love and wisdom. So we're very, very grateful for that. And at this point, we're going to.
I beg your forgiveness for my shortcomings because.
Oh no, Mother.
I'm not even advanced. They go, Kanisha is supposed to be, I'm not even to that level. I'm like pre-Kanista, I'm a pre-kindergartner, but whatever I heard from Prabhupada, I just try to offer that.
Hare Krishna. I'm usually never lack of words, but you've let me lose every single word I might even have to say. But all I can say, devotees, please, you may all kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered Auntie, Her Grace Mother Malati Devi. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama, Hare,
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Vancha
Vanchakalpataru,
Kalpataru,
Vyasati, Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo,
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namo
Vaishnavyo
Namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Grace,
Lakshmati
Mother
Vai
Malati
Sarinda
Devi Dasi
Ki
Ki
Jai.
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 Divine Grace
Hare
Srila
Krishna.
Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur
Jai.
Premanand Yara Kunti
Igor.
Dasi, Shanki Devi
Thank
Dasi Ki
you so
Jai.
much, Mother, for the class.